Hey y'all, and welcome back to another video of My Creative Life with Kel Sweetie, where we read books and we make art. Today we are talking about my Sweet Reads Awards video, my Sweet Reads Awards book awards. I don't know, we're workshopping the name, but essentially this is my anti-Goodreads Awards video. As many people all over booktube have already talked about in length, one, we are never happy with the actual nominees for the Goodreads Awards. I found out this year that basically I'd read I think there was maybe one book that I had read. There's one book that I had read on the actual Goodreads Awards nominees. There were some that were on there that were probably on my TBR, but for the most part, considering that I read more than most people every year, I mean, not as much as most booktubers, but most people, I find it really crazy that I had not read any of the books on the Goodreads Awards. And I'm not the only one. I've found a lot of other people had not read a lot of these books either. And in an effort to basically both protest and also wanting to know what are my personal best reads, I ended up doing a Sweet Reads Awards. That is the actual name. It's being workshopped, but we're calling it the Sweet Reads Awards. I asked y'all what were your top out of 5 options that I gave you, both from my 2024 releases TBR as well as my 2024 actual reads within how many four different genres, and you guys voted for your top ones, which thank y'all. I really appreciate y'all voting. It's always nice to sit there and be be interactive with me, and y'all actually be interactive with me. So let's get into the video. I'm going to talk a little bit more about why I'm doing this, and we'll talk a bit about what the nominees were and what y'all ended up voting on. It should be a fun little video today, just to kind of talk through some things and show y'all. It was very interesting to see what y'all voted for. So let's get in the intro. As I said in the intro, I kind of invented the Sweet Reads Awards to be a reaction to the Goodreads Awards, because this year I had not read hardly any of the books in any of the nominee categories that I read in. I mean, even the ones that I don't read in. I hadn't read any of them, which was very shocking for me. But I also was looking around booktube and bookstagram, and a lot of other people were like, yeah, these aren't it. These, as per usual, they aren't it. I feel like Goodreads constantly, it's a popularity contest. And yes, the awards itself is a popularity contest, but the nominees are a popularity contest from the publishers themselves. There's no reason that Stephen King should be on the horror category. To be honest, every single year Stephen King has always had a book in the horror category, and that's one, because Stephen King is always writing books. But I think that it's tone deaf and it's not helpful for a lot of horror readers who mainly don't really read Stephen King all year to completely ignore or to give that space to somebody who is so settled that they really shouldn't even be allowed in the Goodreads Awards unless they've written the next great American novel. Which, to be honest with you, Holly and I don't know, there was another one that came out this year that was in the Reads Award. They weren't the new great American. They weren't the new It. They weren't the new even Cujo. They weren't the new Shining or the Misery. These are him just writing to be writing. And even Stephen King fans could tell you that. There's so many amazing writers out there making such amazing work, and they're being talked about everywhere all over the internet. And the fact that you're still choosing these more well-known writers to put into the Goodreads as opposed to actual, hey, they were talked about a lot this year, I think it's tone deaf. And it's tone deaf in the same way that Barnes & Noble basically has an entire wall dedicated to Stephen King when you go over to the horror section. It's just kind of at some point, you have to say, we're in the business of just putting out well-known names to sell rather than actually selling books. Because what happens is that because no one has read any of the other books in the horror category that you've put, you're going to have people who simply gravitate to a name that they recognize. Stephen King is a brand name. It's a brand name of horror. It's like voting for Jordan Peele, like, for a horror movie awards. You don't know what, maybe you didn't watch the movie, but you know the name Jordan Peele, so you're going to vote for it because you're like, oh, that's a brand name. Like, it's just what it is. So when Stephen King wins the horror award, you're like, or is in the top finalist for the horror award, you're like, yeah, because people who didn't even read any of the books said, okay, I'll vote for him because I recognize that name. And that's the thing that doesn't work for the Goodreads Awards, when they put books in there that are more so names of people that people recognize or were just highly marketed by publishers, rather than books that were actually read by the communities that support those genres, because people are just going to pick for the name that they recognize. And I know that for a fact because I've watched booktubers literally go, don't know anybody in this list, I guess I'll pick this person because I know their name. And it's like, well, that's kind of negates the whole point of the Goodreads Awards, you know, the whole point of these awards in the first place. So that little spiel being said, I also think that knowing that you haven't read any of it, I think that it made me feel this way, where I was just kind of like, I haven't read any of these books. What was I doing all year? And it was like, you've read nearly, I mean, your goal is 65 books, but you've already read 55 books this year. You're working towards just reading 60. That's more than some people even read in 2 years. That was more books than you had read in 1 year, like 4 years ago. So you've been reading, and you've been reading some really great books. Just because you haven't read these books doesn't mean that you haven't been reading, because at the end of the day, there's so many books constantly being released. There's no way you can read all of them. And I think that it makes you like second guess what you're doing this hobby for, or that you're even doing this hobby and people come to you for any book recommendations or advice, when that feels negated by you not like recognizing any books on a well-known platform like Goodreads. So I flipped this and I made the Sweet Reads challenge. And actually, if you go to my Instagram, I've kind of made that challenge open for other people to start doing as well, because I think that it's really important for us to kind of come to our own level of what our best reads and invite the community to vote on those things, but not necessarily relying so much on these. I mean, Goodreads is owned by Amazon, so that should tell you everything you need to know. I mean, they ain't in the business of the actual book community, so I'm telling you. So I think that it's a fun way for us to sit here, look at our reads from the year, and ask other people, what did you think of the reads that I read this year? I think that's a way to start a conversation about why people voted that way, and also still make it completely valid. Whatever you did read this year was still valid. So I did 2 different lists with 4 genres. One list was because I read so much back catalog, and that was another thing, is that I realized that I probably will never read a good portion of the Goodreads Awards because I read so diversely. I'm constantly finding new authors and reading back catalogs. And so that kind of puts me out of the running for reading a lot of 2024 releases, or any like new releases that are constantly coming out. And I definitely recognize that when I look back at what I read this year, regardless of the fact that I loved how I read this year. So I have a 2024 reads for the categories, and then I have my 2024 TBR releases. So basically, that's any 2024 releases that are currently sitting in my TBR, and I'm asking you all, like, what do you vote for? Mainly because if taking your votes into account, I'll kind of move those up and put them into my TBR for next year to make sure that I get to it, because obviously other people really enjoyed them. So it kind of is a double-sided thing where it helps me out for the upcoming year while I'm planning my reads. And then it also helps me look at, start conversation and dialogue around what you all thought of my reads for the year. We're just trying to get the biggest bang for our buck here. So while I did those 2 categories, I then did 4 different nomination categories for every genre that that's my genre. So I did fiction, I did mystery and thriller, horror, and science fiction were the 4 categories. That is the basis of this awards. I have some templates over on my Instagram, so make sure to follow me over there and check those out. There should be As this video is out, there should be a post with the final nominees, as well as in my stories and everything. I'll have templates for you guys to try doing this on your own. It was a lot of fun kind of seeing some people do this when I first made the announcement that I was going to be doing this awards and getting votes. And so I would love to see some of y'all's like top ones in your awards, especially as we get to the end of the year and everybody's doing those roundups and stuff. So let's get started. Starting out with fiction. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to go genre by genre and do both categories, like both lists within those genres, if that makes sense. I hope it does. Let's get started. We're starting with fiction. For my 2024 reads, the nominees are And Then She Fell by Alicia Elliott, The Women Could Fly by Megan Giddings, Chlorine by Jade Song, Little Rot by Aweke Emezi, and Model Home by River Solomon. This year, I mean, as y'all can see from this lineup, I like it queer, and I like women, and I like chaos. Like, give me that in a book, and you're pretty much gonna have me sealed. And I like it to be women of color. So I really, those are my top 5 of the year. I have read so many other books this year and everything. I think maybe I would switch out Model Home for Sorrowland, but considering like that basically all of my favorites were in basically a lineup, that is insane to me, but that really is looking like it's kind of my top 5 for the year. I found multiple brand new favorite authors. River Solomon and Megan Giddings are my new favorite authors of all time. I can't wait to read more of Alicia Elliott's work because that's a brand new favorite. Jade Song put something else out immediately because I have to read it. Aweke Emezi, I've got to double back to your back catalog because everybody... I know that Little Rot is divisive and some people are just like, some people love it and some people hate it. There is no in between. But I had so much fun reading these books this year, and I'm just so happy about how diverse they are in both who the writers are and like stories that they're telling as women, as queer women, the experience of it, as queerness, as somebody who's even non-binary, the experience of being bisexual, the experience of being a mother, the experience of being someone who doesn't want to ever be a mother. I think this is proof of like, one, what my favorite genre is and what my favorite topics are in a plot, but also that can vary very much, and I still really love it. So that was my top 5 nominees for the fiction category of my 2024 reads, and y'all chose Little Rot by Aweke Emezi, which really shocked me, to be honest, because so many people either hate or love that book. So I'm very shocked to see that was your choice, your winner for this year. Shout out to chaotic, insane, aggressive, sad storylines. Because that's exactly what Little Rot was. My 2024 releases TBR list is Piglet by Lottie Hazel, So Thirsty by Rachel Harrison, Martyr by Kevin Akbar, Interesting Facts About Space by Emily Austin, and Anita De Monte Laughs Last by Social Gonzalez. I think that's how you say it, Social? Like you say the X like a Z. Those are my top 5 TBR 2024 releases, and y'all chose Martyr by Kevin Akbar. At the beginning of the year, I saw so many people reading this book, and I almost picked it up at the bookstore the other day just so that I could be ready to read it maybe in the new year. And I keep on going back and forth on reading it simply because it seems like a rich kid. It seems like a rewriting of Catcher in the Rye, and I hated Catcher in the Rye because I felt like it was spoiled rich kid discovers himself problems. But y'all voted for it, so I don't know. We will see if I end up reading it. I've heard Piglet isn't as body focused as the title would suggest, which concerns me. I want to read So Thirsty, but I have to read such huge teeth or such. It's the werewolf one that Rachel Harrison came out with. Also, I have Black Sheep as well by Rachel Harrison that I want to read. So I don't know when I'm going to get to So Thirsty. We'll have to see. Interesting Facts About Space. Some people have told me that I should read One Day Everyone in This Room Will Be Dead instead. So again, we'll see. I think that there's a lot of things on this list that may move around, but y'all voted for Martyr. And I'm kind of like, okay, maybe I have to just give it a try. Maybe the plot will surprise me. So we will see. The next genre is mystery and thriller. For my 2024 reads, the nominees are All the Sinners Bleed by S.A. Cosby, Silence of the Lambs by Thomas Harris, Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn, The Weight of Blood by Tiffany D. Jackson, and Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. I know some of y'all are gonna go, some of those are not mystery thrillers. And let me explain it to you. I chose these books based on one, their Goodreads genres. So little do you know, The Weight of Blood actually is set as a mystery thriller, mainly because the mystery being, I mean, one, it's set up like it's a podcast, a mystery podcast. Like they couldn't figure out what happened and everything. That was the whole thing for that. And then Silence of the Lambs, some of y'all are like, Silence of the Lambs is a horror. And it's like, no, the movie is more of a horror. The book is way more of a mystery thriller. And Ninth House, y'all are gonna go, that's a fantasy book, a dark fantasy book. Yes, but it is a mystery thriller as well, apparently. It is marked as such in Goodreads, and that makes sense because basically you spend the entire book trying to figure out who done it and everything. So that's the mystery portion of it. I did research, y'all. I didn't just throw these in here just to throw them in here, all right? All that being said, y'all chose All the Sinners Bleed by S.A. Cosby. I'm not surprised. That book is amazing. It blew me away. It got my mom into reading. I had her read Razorblade Tears by S.A. Cosby, and within 2 months, she read his entire back catalog. Like, absolutely got obsessed with it. I gave All the Sinners Bleed, I believe, 5 stars. It was either 5 stars or 4.75. I don't know, like something small that I took off for it, probably for justice for the cameraman or something that happened in the middle of the book. But that book was amazing. I cannot wait to read Razorblade Tears. I know that S.A. Cosby is coming up with some more books, and I know that some people also love My Darkest Prayer. I don't think that I can read back to back to back S.A. Cosby personally. It's just it's a lot. Like, S.A. Cosby is writing some deep stuff, some dark stuff. So I think that it's like, let's sprinkle it throughout the year. But I definitely think that S.A. Cosby is a new favorite author as well. So I'm not surprised because All the Sinners Bleed is a knockout of a book. My 2024 releases TBR nominees are House of Bone and Rain by Gavino Iglesias, Indian Burial Ground by Nick Medina, Dearest by Jackie Walters, Where Sleeping Girls Lie by Farida Abike Yemidi, The Unmothers by Leslie J. Anderson. Again, y'all may go, The Unmothers is a horror. It's actually at the heart of a mystery. So that is, again, you go check on Goodreads. They're in the mystery category, along with Dearest, Indian Burial Ground, I want to read House of Bone and Rain because I feel like the way that the plot is set, it sounds kind of like a S.A. Cosby type mystery, but something more focused, like Latino based. So we'll see. I'll probably end up more so reading that next year. But y'all voted for Where Sleeping Girls Lie by Farida Abike Iyemidi. I know that I'm butchering that last name, and I apologize truly in advance. But yeah, a lot of y'all voted for that. I'm going to read it next year. I don't know if I'm going to read it during the I Love Black Horror reading challenge, because I have so many other books to read. I really need to sort through that, to be honest. But I don't know. But I'll definitely read it. It's been on my list for a while to read, so we're definitely going to get to it. The next genre is horror. My 2024 read nominees are Natural Beauty by Ling Ling Wang, The Black Girl Survives in This One, which was an anthology, Jackal by Aaron E. Adams, Pinata by Leopoldo Gao, and Mary by Nat Cassidy. This year I read this year was the first year I feel like that I really, really focused on, I am a horror reader. Now, we're saying that real light because I'm not an extreme horror reader, but I did finally realize you love weird horror stuff, and even the other stuff on here it has horror in its genre makeup and everything. So this was the first year that I really focused on that, and I had such a better time reading this year than any year that I've ever read at all. Like, I think me reading more books this year than last year and more before that is all because I've just leaned heavy and heavier into the genre, knowing that that's what I love. And so here we are. That being said, y'all voted for Jackal by Aaron E. Adams, which I mean, it was amazing. I still think about Jackal and the ending and the message behind it. I really, really loved it, and she absolutely killed it. I know that she has another book. Either it's out now or it's coming out very, very soon, and it has to do with twins or something. But I'm looking forward to it. I'm really, really looking forward to it, and I can't wait to get my hands on it. I mean, of course, Nat Cassidy had to be on here because I finally read Mary, and it blew me away. I started the year off with Natural Beauty. That was an amazing one. My first arc was The Black Girl Survives in this one, and I still think about some of the stories in that anthology. It got me into anthologies, and Pinata was really, really amazing reading that in September. So these all were great. I would have been happy with anything y'all chose anyways, but Jackal was y'all's choice for the horror category for 2024 reads. My 2024 releases TBR nominees are The Eyes Are the Best Part by Monica Kim, Diavola by Jennifer Marie Thorne, Bury Your Gaze by Chuck Tingle, American Rapture by CJ Lead, and I Was a Teenage Slasher by Stephen Graham Jones. I was surprised with who the winner was for this one, to be honest with you, because I saw Diavola everywhere when it came out. Absolutely everywhere. I saw The Eyes Are the Best Part everywhere when it came out. I will be reading The Eyes Are the Best Part next year, no matter what. So I was very surprised when I saw that Bury Your Gaze by Chuck Tingle is the one that swept this it really swept it. Like, everybody voted pretty heavily for that one. I was very surprised by that. Come June, I'm going to read that book. We're going to finally read it. So I'm very, very excited to finally knock that out. As a Teenage Slasher ended up on this list, but as y'all should already know, because I think that video is already out, I already read I Was a Teenage Slasher. I made this list way prior to me thinking that I was actually going to get to that book. So there you go. There was a little bit of a thing there. But I also don't think that y'all would have voted for the other one I had before I chose I Was a Teenage Slasher, and that was We Came to Welcome You by Vincent Torrado. I've heard a lot of people not really like that novel. So I'm very concerned when I get to it, because I do plan on still reading it. It felt like a very Stepford Wives type of thing, like body snatcher horror, but we'll see. And then my final genre, science fiction. I read science fiction, but kind of loosely. Like, it's very oh, that happened to be science fiction. I don't think I search it out, but also I have a very loose understanding of science fiction. Like, I believe Frankenstein is dark science fiction. It's monsters, it's scientific, it's creation. I feel like I'm not like a Star Wars science fiction type of person, you know? So I think it's very interesting. You'll see what's in this category and what I kind of gravitate to. But some of these are actually in the Goodreads Awards category this year as well. So I feel good about that at least. At least there's at least that. So for my 2024 reads for this year, the nominees are Several People Are Typing by Calvin Kalsuke, Sorrowland by River Solomon, Monstrillo by Gerardo Samano Cordova, Queen of Teeth by Haley Piper, and World War Z by Max Brooks, which was a huge surprise to me, to be honest with you. Y'all chose Sorrowland by River Solomon, which I am so excited about. I think that I've gotten I think my biggest claim to fame as an influencer, very, very small influencer, minute influencer, is getting how many people I've gotten to read Sorrowland. Sorrowland was such an amazing novel. I still think about that book constantly, and it's what got me into River Solomon. I truly want to have a River Solomon marathon where I read nothing but their back catalog to catch up with everything they've ever written, because they're that amazing to me. And I'll say this enough. If you've not read Sorrowland, go out and read Sorrowland. I've never read anything like it. Like, as a plot, as characters, writing style, I've never read anything like Sorrowland. It is absolutely amazing, and thank y'all for voting for that one for your winner of this year. And for the 2024 releases TBR nominees, we have Womb City by Flo, Tisa Mase. I am so sorry that I butchered your name as much as I did. I do plan on reading that this upcoming year. and I cannot wait to get to it. It was luckily in this year's, I think, the science fiction category for Goodreads, as well as Anybot by Sierra Greer, Such Lovely Skin by Tatiana Schlott-Bahn, Baby X by Kiera Peikoff, The Other Valley by Scott Alexander Howard. Y'all had 2 winners. This was a tie, and it was between Womb City and Anybot. Anybot, I've heard mixed reviews on, so I was very surprised to see that y'all voted for that one. And I think I saw a good amount of people reading Womb City somewhat earlier this year, but it kind of just died down out of nowhere. I really plan on reading that in this upcoming, as a little sneak peek, in the upcoming I Love Black Horror Challenge coming this upcoming year. And I can't wait to get to the rest of these, to be honest. Like, this one is probably out of all of them, well, the horror one as well. But I really, really wanted to get to every single one on this 2024 release category for science fiction because they all seemed really, really interesting. So I really can't wait to get to all of those. And that's it. I had so much fun doing this like Sweet Reads Awards. I really want to do it again next year. I think that it's a really fun way to kind of start a conversation going and seeing what other people like about the things that you've read this year, to see if there's any overlap, to see if what they've chosen has been really something out of the blue, and also to leave room for the fact that you've not read everything. I really love the idea of having a category of people voting on your TBR so that you can form your TBR for the upcoming year instead of constantly having to be like, oh, I need to read the newest thing that came out. Back catalogs get forgotten out of people just simply wanting to be the first to read something. And there's so many great books in the back catalog. If I was so worried about 2024 releases, I would have never read Sorrowland. I would have never read The Woman Could Fly. I would have never read half of the books that were amazing this year. So I really recommend you to kind of try this out yourself this year, or even to plan to do it sometime next year. I plan on doing this every year now because, in all honesty, we put far too much weight in the Goodreads Awards, and we should be just kind of, it's all about getting to your own level, especially in a hobby like this that fluctuates, whether you're reading 5 books or 2 books a month, or you're reading 21 books a month, you know, it fluctuates so much that if you don't do this where you're like simply judging your own work, you can get really lost and you can really kind of let yourself down into thinking, I'm not reading enough, I'm not doing enough. What am I doing? You know, when in all honesty, it's just about you reading what you love to read and you doing this as a hobby at the end of the day and giving some people some recommendations if they're looking for them. So I had a lot of fun doing this today. Thank y'all again so much for voting. I really appreciate it. Again, getting some of that feedback, and it's so interesting seeing what y'all ended up voting on. I hope that y'all try this out as well. Please subscribe down below if you like today's video. I do all types of book videos and book content, especially coming into the new year, basically from January until it hits probably around May, and then you'll start seeing a little bit of holiday Halloween content because we start going Halloween decor hunting. But the book content, no matter what, stays here year-round, and I'm really excited and have some really big plans for the upcoming year. So I'm super excited to share that with you all. Thank y'all so much for watching. Let me know down below what was a surprising top 5-star for you this year. Like one that was very, very surprising for you. You were like, I had no idea that I would end up loving this book as much as I did, and I'm so glad that I read it. There were a couple on this list that I couldn't have called it. I wouldn't have called that would have been my favorite, or that I found like that brand new author that I'm like, that's an auto buy for me and everything. Let me know down below. I can't wait to hear what y'all have to say. See you on the next one. Bye.